Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Welcome in. Guerilla Sports Off Ice. Postgame live. Avs run away with it in Minnesota late in the third, and a little bit of extracurriculars to end the game. Foligno had some type of issue with Josh Manson trying to run the clock out with 10 seconds left. Avs take this one 6-1, Megan. And last night we talked about the game being kind of boring, nothing really exciting. I thought this one was fast paced. There was intensity. There was high-end skill. And when it came right down to it, the Avs were able to pull away, fill the net up a little bit, and completely rebound from the performance from last night. My first question to you, before we get into the specifics of this game, what your thoughts are on the response, not just the result, but the process that we saw after such a disappointing game last night.
I am so happy with this response. It's not just a win in the second game of a back-to-back. With a still depleted lineup, even with Jonathan Drouin returning, they lose a Sam Girard. They get a fresh goaltender in net in Mackenzie Blackwood, who ends up needing to come up with some huge saves in this game. Yep. What I liked is period by period, unlike the Chicago game, the Avs did get better. Obviously, score effects take place in that third period, so Minnesota tries to push back, but it was such a dominant effort from Colorado. I like the way you said it. The Avs ran away with it from the top to the bottom. Mm-hmm. Colorado's depth also got to shine through a little bit in this game, and that's one reason I'm extremely happy with this result. I think it's a big answer to what was not a very good Chicago game, and important Central Division points on the line in playing Minnesota. So when they were trying to chase in the Central Division standings, just a lot of big things at play here beyond just a 6-1 win.
100%. We're going to talk about the depth, the even distribution of the scoring here throughout the lineup, not just necessarily who was putting the puck in the net, but who was making plays tonight, who was setting things up, who was driving a lot of play. We'll talk a little bit about Mackenzie Blackwood as well. Another really strong game for him. Right now, sitting right around a 960 tonight. And the reason I say right now, because we know these NHL scorekeepers like to adjust shots and all that stuff throughout the night. So we'll see where that officially lands tomorrow morning, but another really solid outing for him. Let's go back to the start of this game, Megan, like we normally like to. Avs come out, really good pace, really good urgency to their game early on. For me, that set the tone for what we saw the rest of the night.
It did, and I kind of joked about Logan O'Connor's lack of a reaction to his goal to open up the scoring, but Parker Kelly did it later in the game too, almost as if it's an inconvenience to have been the goal scorer there. But I love what it says about this group. It's important to get some depth contributions to start this game, and your point about the energy is an important one too. There's a lot of reasons they could have felt fatigue at the start of this game, but I think setting the tone early with a goal and then capitalizing at the end of a power play opportunity with the Ross Colton goal, even though they allow that goal against off of just maybe a late arrival and a breakdown in their D-zone coverage there in the end, they recover from it in a strong way. And so that's what I mean by period they got better, because it wasn't a bad first period. I like the energy and I like the tone that they set.
So you mentioned Logan O'Connor, and it's part of the reason why I thought it just made so much natural sense that he was the one to get the goal, to kind of kick things off, because this is his exact brand of hockey, what we saw from them early. And I like the call out of kind of coming out and setting the tone and letting Minnesota know, hey, you're not going to be able to jump on us just because we got in late last night. We played Chicago. We didn't make it easy on ourselves. Our top guys had to play big minutes. I thought coming out with that type of effort, with that type of presence, I think you're right. I think it did send a little bit of a message. And the fact that Logan O'Connor is a guy that capitalizes on that, I think is only fitting. fast forward just a little bit. A good power play that doesn't get rewarded, but immediately after a fortuitous bounce for Ross Colton. And again, we'll consider him depth, even though he's taking a lot of top 6 reps. It's not Nathan MacKinnon. It's not Mikko Rantanen. It's not Cale Makar who really helped jumpstart this.
No, it's a great point. I talked about a hunger from Ross Colton when I described what I like about having him get reps on the power play, first unit, second unit. Otherwise, I think it's how he's found success there. And it's an attention to detail too. Staying at the net front as the forechecker up on that play in what could have been an easy kill or clear is what I mean, from Minnesota. There is just this, but on the off chance that you can capitalize on a mistake they make. And that, I feel, becomes the story of this game. You know, the later contributions from some of the stars, like, you know, MacKinnon getting a goal in this game, I think it comes from more opportunistic play. There's a lot of odd man rushes that Minnesota had to contend with. And that takes one, moving your feet to get up ice in the first place and create that chance. And you have to be a little bit opportunistic. And that's what Ross Colton does, kind of in part of his way of setting the tone in the first period as well.
And the Avs then give up a goal late. That goal from Ross Colton felt like a little bit of a reward to me for the way that the Avs started this game, the way that the power play was buzzing. But they give one back late. And it's a goal that there's a couple different things you could point at in terms of breakdowns that you don't really like. You give up a look right in the home plate area. I mean, in between the circles. For such a strong first period, it felt a little bit disappointing if you're the Avs to give that goal away late. You and I talked about it. You give credit to Minnesota big time for being able to keep the game within 2 and find a way to capitalize on a rare chance for them in the first period. But what I think if you're Jared Bednar, you really like was the response right at the start of the second. You have to wonder, is a late goal for Minnesota going to propel them forward, give them some momentum, give them some belief, a roster that was a little bit depleted tonight, missing some of their high-end talent. The Avs came out, kind of squashed that early, said, hey, let's get up and skate a little bit here. Let's get our legs moving, and more good stuff from Mackenzie Blackwood allows the Avs to extend that lead out. But I want to hear from you on the Avs being able to absorb a goal late in the first period and still being able to respond well in the second, not being depleted, not allowing the Wild to creep back in.
Well, I want to tell on myself for a second. After the first period, the Blackwood goal against, I didn't have a lot of issue with it because it's clear to me the breakdown that happens in front of him. It's not single-handedly Calvin DeHaan's fault, but it was clear to me that everybody on this play was a little bit unclear on their assignment and which lane to the net to protect. And as a result, though, there wasn't really a screen. And so it's coming from an extremely dangerous area of the ice. But Blackwood does have a decent sightline on it. And so I was maybe ready to be a little bit critical. It's only the 4th shot against in the game. Yeah. Colorado kept Minnesota to 3 just before that, right until the end of that period. So defensively, a pretty strong first period. So I was ready to be a little nervous. Like that might be one of the few Blackwood goals that I just don't love.
Interesting. Okay.
He responds in a huge way in the second period. It's why I didn't even say anything, because he gets better period by period. You know, it's the difference that Blackwood makes. He doesn't let a goal that he probably wants back. I think every goal Blackwood would always want back. He's just very competitive. But in that second period, he comes up with that huge save on Eriksson Ek in one end, and then the Bogosian broken play leads to the 2v2 opportunity back up ice the other way with Rantanen, MacKinnon. Rantanen capitalizes off a great read and pass from MacKinnon, and it just continues to get better from there. You know, in the third period, I've highlighted a few great saves that Mackenzie Blackwood comes up with, including on the kill before the Avs score shorthanded, but I won't get ahead in our storyline by jumping to the third period. They did a lot of right things, though, in the second period to eliminate those types of mistakes like the one at the end of the first period and make this a clear path forward for them in this game. And that was all I wanted to see from Chicago to Minnesota, was just to eliminate some of these mistakes that good, experienced NHL teams should not be making.
Mackenzie Blackwood does finish the game with an expected goals against of 2, once again outpacing what the analytics say he should have given up tonight in the most simple form. In that second period, the Avs are able to extend the lead. Again, something you and I have talked a lot this season, Megan, about wanting to see them do a little bit more of. You have a lead, start to push the pace a little bit, start to extend those leads, make teams play from behind, and play with the lead a little bit. It felt like a couple dozen games for the Avs to build up to that point that they were able to, get these leads and feel solid about it. There were a lot of instances early in the season where they were giving leads away. A beautiful play from Nathan MacKinnon and an even better shot from Mikko Rantanen does help extend that lead out to 3-1. But look, we talked a minute ago about the depth players being able to get the ball rolling for the Avs, and your top guys took over a little bit and started to extend that lead out.
Yeah, like going back to a big save from Blackwood at the end of the second period as the clock is ticking down, right off the face-off, Matt Boldy with an attempt from Zuccarello. And what I like is that Blackwood stays in the game for every minute of it. And so even when the team has that lead and the period's about to expire, he's still fully locked in. Fast forward to the start of the third period, and it's another odd man rush opportunity. It starts with Kiviranta leading the way. He makes the entry, protects the puck. That's so important, right? It's not just the skill plays that help Colorado define success, but it's also being strong on pucks. In this sense, it's Kiviranta winning a battle along the wall against Zuccarello that allows him to complete the pass to Parker Kelly from inside the circle. And it's pretty easy for Kelly to just wrist that puck far side from that point and get them even more of an insurance goal lead to start the period and set that tone a little bit. And I talked about it at the top of the show, but you look at Parker Kelly's body language, and that is just business as usual for him. Another guy who does not ordinarily score goals, a very mild reaction.
See, I took it as he looked dead tired to me. And I took the reaction as that was the last little bit that him and Kivy had in the tank. Kivy almost lost that puck. He had to stick with it in the neutral zone. And then kind of a funny little shot from Parker Kelly. Kind of catches it up on edge and is able to, fling it a little bit far side. Ends up being a really nice goal. I didn't take that as business as usual. I took it as I didn't know if I was going to have enough to get up ice into this situation. Either way,
took it as too, as he points to Kivy, I think to give Kivy the credit, like
for
this
sure.
is
Great pass.
All you. Great pass.
Great play, great pass. And yeah, no, I mean they earned that one. Into the third period, that goal kicks it off and kind of felt like it killed any momentum that Minnesota may have been trying to build. Killed any type of potential hope that maybe Minnesota had of being able to get back into this quickly and narrow that lead to something a little bit more manageable. And then a couple minutes later, the Avs take a penalty, and Josh Manson, I'm going to keep bringing it up all year long. Josh Manson told me earlier this season, everything the Avs do is work ethic based. Doesn't matter who's in the lineup, who's healthy, who's not, what the lines look like, what the pairings look like, who's in net. If the Avs are doing the right things and working hard, they're going to get rewarded. The effort from Josh Manson to skate that puck up ice, get clear of a defenseman, then make a picture perfect pass. To me, the goal is credited to Arturi Lehkonen, but Josh Manson, holy smokes, if you could award goals for effort that results in a point for your team, Manson would have gotten one there for me.
Well, and going back to the beginning of this game, strong play at the defensive blue line from Manson to help spring Logan O'Connor for that goal. Oh no, goal.
The ghoul.
The girl early in that first period. What a strong game from Manson. And honestly, it's just smart. It capitalizes on the opportunity that presents itself in a matter of seconds. I wanted to start with that PK. Colorado takes a penalty. 2 huge saves from Mackenzie Blackwood on Eriksson Ek, and then another Marco Rossi deflection attempt in close. And it's just Mackenzie's pad in the right place, right time. It's not
Yep.
necessarily a reactionary save, but that's good positioning, right? 3 huge saves then come to mind on that PK. Then Manson nabs that puck in the slot and turns on the Jets up ice. And I think what I like about that, and you calling out the hard work required to make that possible before the brilliant pass cross ice, is the fact that this is the second game in a back-to-back. So Parker Kelly and Kiviranta also being a little bit gassed on that, goal at the start of the third period. I don't doubt that Josh Manson's also a little bit tired, but he turns on the Jets. He goes up ice. He completes a great cross-ice pass ahead of Zuccarello to get that puck to Lehkonen, to get this shorthanded goal. So, it starts as a great kill in Mackenzie Blackwood's making huge saves. Then they turn it into a goal-scoring opportunity. Just love to see that effort during what is probably a really tired period for the Avs, because they did just play last night.
Yeah. No, I mean, usually when you're talking about back-to-backs, it's that team that is fresh. You got to stick with it just a little bit longer. You're going to wear the team down. You're going to get your chances, your looks late. The Avs never open that door. One of my notes here after the Lehkonen goal as a result of the Josh Manson play shorthanded, one of the notes that I made here was the Avs weren't letting up. You're up 5-1. You're on the road. Minnesota had kind of tapped out at that point. You're under 10 minutes to play. And the Avs stayed on the gas, stayed on the forecheck. The details stayed sharp. They're completing passes. They're getting on the forecheck. I may have just said forecheck twice. Forwards are coming back, supporting in the defensive zone. Mackenzie Blackwood staying engaged. Nathan MacKinnon is rewarded with a goal just to kind of underscore what we mentioned off the top. The generosity of the offense tonight, spreading it around all over the lineup. Nathan MacKinnon gets in on the act. You mentioned off the top, signs of a championship team. This to me was signs of a championship team. You don't take your foot off the gas.
No, I think, someone in the chat was talking a little bit more about the lack of reaction, and that was sort of what prompted the signs of a champion team comment earlier too, that no matter who the goals are coming from, that is the expectation, that they're going to provide goal support and do what is needed to elevate this team to a win without relying on what the goaltender is doing in net, what kind of night he's having solely. And it's great because Mackenzie Blackwood continues to be so stellar for the Avs team, but I love to see the depth get up into the scoring tonight. And also Colorado Stars, as you mentioned, it wasn't necessarily required, but they just didn't let their foot off the gas, even when they had a clear lead in this game, kind of running away with it. But to your point too, the other way in which they didn't let up is there's a stark difference. I know some people were talking about rebound control, and Colorado allowed around 6 rebound opportunities for Chicago last night. They kept it to about 3 tonight. That's the natural stat trick total. And so imagine there's some numbers give and take there, but that is still a pretty stark contrast, one game to the next. And that's in front of your rookie netminder that they allowed so many rebound opportunities. To give Trent Minor a little bit of a shout out here, Minnesota's broadcast even shouted this out, that Colorado was doing a lot to disallow second and third opportunities by clearing pucks and better protecting the net front. And so I want to shout out that part of Colorado's game. Did I say another curse word? You're smiling.
No. My pit crew was helping me get my laptop plugged in because it was about to die, and she was making funny faces at me behind the camera. I'm sorry.
No, that's a much better reason than accidentally swearing again.
No, I'm sorry. But you wanted to give a shout out on the rebounds, you were saying.
Yeah, because that's a good defensive effort. And Minnesota did make a push in the third period, especially on the power play opportunity that they had kind of, midway point in that third period. Big saves from Mackenzie Blackwood, but also still just pretty good all-around effort from the whole team. And the whole of their defensive effort tonight, I think, deserves some recognition without taking too much away from Mackenzie Blackwood, who had a terrific night in net.
I mean, this one really did feel like a group that was upset with not only the result from last night, but the effort that they came out with in that game from start to finish. And it seemed like this was a group that was on the same page, all 4 lines, all 3 pairs. Mackenzie Blackwood. It felt like this was a group that was in sync top to bottom and said, we are taking 2 points out of Minnesota come hell or high water. And it ended up, coming a little bit easier to them, but it's because of the fact that the details were so dialed in. The habits were sharp. The Avs stayed on the gas regardless of what the lead was, regardless of how much time was left. And then, yes, getting the goaltending from Mackenzie Blackwood that you got again tonight certainly does help. Any last thoughts? I'm going to go pull a couple questions from your question thread. Any final thoughts for you, though, while I go and pull these up and stall?
No, keep pulling it up. Just want to emphasize why this is significant. Significant for Colorado in the standings. They were 5 points back of Minnesota ahead of this game. Colorado. Wow. You know what? I'm just gonna let you pull up the question.
I got questions now. Talking is tough.
Here.
Talking is tough. All right. This one's from Finn. Couldn't watch, was live at the Sabres shutout in Ottawa. All right, not a bad reason to not see a game on TV. But how happy are we that Joe is back in the lineup? We're going to keep an eye on this one, actually. I don't fully know what's going on with Jonathan Drouin. We're going to keep an eye on his status, on the injuries. It does seem like this is a little bit still like the truer definition of day-to-day. We'll see where he goes, but picks up another point tonight, continues to be really impactful when he's in the lineup.
Really impactful is a great way to put it. You look at the Nathan MacKinnon goal specifically, and Rantanen faked like he was going to dump that puck in and tapped it up to Drouin to make the entry just outside the blue line, and Drouin drops the puck through two wild skaters on either side of him, Eriksson and Johansson, to MacKinnon, successfully gets that pass through. Probably could have been easily stopped, but it's just an expert passing play from Drouin, and that's what he brings to the lineup. He is able to complete some of those passes that seem impossible, and that leads to MacKinnon being able to skate that puck around the outside and get a goal for the team. And it's because of that high IQ passing that Jonathan Drouin is capable of. You see the immediate returns of having him back in the lineup. To your point, I am okay with them cautiously managing his injury, so long as it means a healthy playoff run is waiting Jonathan Drouin at the end of all of this. But I love him in the lineup more than not. He's already had such a huge impact in the few games that he's been able to play this year. I just want him to stay healthy. So if that means taking a few nights off in the regular season, I can live with that.
That's when you need to be healthy at the end of the year. And if, to your point, taking a couple nights off helps. Good. I apologize. I was scrolling through there to see if we had any specifics, because the next one here is from our girl Abby. What happened to Sammy G? Right now it's just listed as day-to-day upper body injury. We'll probably get a little bit more detail as the team travels to Winnipeg and we get another morning skate, things like that. You have to imagine this is something that crept up last night. Have you heard anything more than what I just said?
No.
Nope. All right. Moving on. From Thick and Thin Avs fan, what do you think of the ice conditions tonight? Besides the typical moose slipping and sliding, everyone seemed to have massive footing issues in the rink. Wasn't there to know, to be able to see what was going on, but did notice some falling. It happens. I think they were saying that there was something else going on inside Xcel Energy Center recently, so ice could have been buried for a couple days. Did you notice anything out of the ordinary?
Maybe it was hard on Calvin DeHaan in the first period, falling on the Bogosian goal. So, in hindsight, maybe the ice was a little bad.
Perhaps. From Katie, despite the quiet night on the score sheet, it looks like Makar had a very good night defensively, including 6 blocks. What are other aspects of his defensive game that often get overlooked due to his offensive production? All of it. Cale Makar is an elite defender, and we talk about this all the time. He does not get anywhere near enough credit for how good he is in his own end.
I talked a little bit about this on our recent pyramid episode the defensive side of Makar's game has taken another level, another step this year. And to Katie's point, probably in ways that we don't fully recognize or appreciate, but the numbers support it. And so some of the things that he does well in his own end is eliminating high danger opportunities. Of all Avs defensemen, he has allowed the fewest. And similarly at 5v5, allowed some of the fewest scoring chances against, particularly in this last 10 game segment. And that's significant because at 5v5, Cale Makar is getting top matchups. And so those are even more difficult at times to defend against. And so it's high caliber defensive play from Cale Makar this season that definitely deserves a shout out. Even, maybe when his game isn't flashing the offensive way, he has just become an even more well-rounded 200-foot player this year.
Often labeled as just an offensive defenseman because he's a little bit smaller, such an elite skater and such an elite talent. But he gets the toughest matchups on every single night, to your point, and is among the best in the league at shutting guys down. Megan, what else do you got for tonight? Really solid win. Not really much more to say. The Avs came out, got the start they needed, built on it, and then really kind of slammed the door shut there in the third with the help from Mackenzie Blackwood and a nice offensive outbreak.
I want to pick something here.
Okay.
One of these is a little deeper in the thread, but it's Bednar should be the leading candidate for Coach of the Year. And it's a quote retweet of Rudo's tweet that has a really fun chart that tracks injuries around the league and then kind of the performances. And so the Avs are in the injured but good category, and they're kind of running away with the injured but good. So there's injured and bad, there's healthy and bad, there's healthy and good. And the Avs, especially proportionate to how injured they are experiencing very good winning results. And so I wanted to use that as an opportunity to not only talk about that, but also what Jared Bednar has done with his team now past the halfway point.
There we go.
Fun.
Yeah, look, Jared Bednar, you will not hear an argument from me that this is a guy who should probably already have a Jack Adams or two under his belt. The fact that he hasn't gotten one yet, to me, is crazy. Along with Cooper in Tampa Bay. But yes, this is a team that, especially since the new goalies have gotten to town, there's new life in this group. There's new energy, new belief, and they are looking like the Avalanche we've gotten used to, and they look like they're starting to play that way top to bottom and should really be concerning for teams around the league, assuming that there is no Val Nichushkin tonight, no Sammy G tonight, no, obviously Gabe Landeskog still missing Miles Wood. Oliver Shillington hasn't been an option for you at the bottom of the D pairs. So an encouraging chart here for sure. Great pull.
Yeah, I think Jared Bednar definitely deserves his flowers as a coach. He's had to navigate uncharted waters in terms of unprecedented injury. And I think for a few seasons now, the Avs have just dealt with lots of injury in season, but this year has felt next level challenging. Just even looking at a game like tonight specifically, he has to juggle the lines a little bit. He's trying to get more out of Casey Middlestat. He's trying to see what kind of player he has in Parsonen. And in recognizing that that Middlestat line with O'Connor and Kiviranta isn't fully going, he lets Kelly return there for a little bit. That results in a goal for that line when he makes that little switch in game. And so I think he toes that line of trying to make changes to get the best out of his players without changing things too much and not allowing them to find any semblance of consistency. And that's one thing that I really like about him as a coach.
We'll wrap things up here with a super chat from Josh. $5. Good win. What's your guys' gut feeling on Landy playing this season? Do you think we see him this year? I do. Playoffs, though. I don't think he's back in the regular season. And that's purely going off what my gut says.
Just wondering. I still think he comes back, but I think it is interesting that timeline has maybe changed. Like for me, I was targeting a return coming out of the Four Nations break with more clarity around the return ahead of the break. And playoffs now from you is definitely pushing that timeline out quite a bit further. Has anything changed recently for you and why you might think that?
I'm looking at where we're at, January 9th. And you have to imagine that, one, we've got that report that came out from Emily Kaplan of ESPN, who has been remarkably spot on when it comes to Gabe Landeskog knowledge, that he's still dealing with a swelling issue of his knee, that if he pushes it too hard, too many days in a row, the knee swells. So you've got that, one. Two, I think we have seen him ramp it up a little bit recently, and a couple times we've seen him on ice. But as much as I do think that that's ramped up, it's more reactionary, it's with quicker pace, you've still got a little ways to go before I'm willing to say, yeah, that looks like someone who could ramp it up to NHL speed. And then number three, Gabe Landeskog is going to have to ramp it up to NHL speed, NHL contact, NHL pace, and then show that he can sustain that for more than a week, 2 weeks at a time. Whether that's through practice, through games, through whatever, there's going to be a period of, okay, well, let's say you ramp it all the way up. You are a full participant in practice. You're going to have to be a full participant in practice pretty heavy for a couple of weeks. And then you're going to have to get into a few games, and you're going to have to go a few games before you can even decide, yes, this is a viable option, or no, it's not. And I'm just starting to look at the timeline between now and I believe that trade deadline is like the first week of March, maybe the second week. I can't remember what the exact date is right now. And I'm just saying, okay, even with Four Nations, you're just running out of time here to make sure that, yes, this is a viable option and not the best. And you're running out of time to figure out if this is a viable option and if it's the best use of that remaining salary cap money or the money that it would eat up. So my feeling on that is that it's probably closer to playoffs based on a lot of the positive things that we've seen, that I do think he will come back. I just think you're kind of you're out of, or extremely close to being out of runway to making sure that he can hold up and not using that money, and also having to do some finagling to even fit his money back in.
I think the money is the interesting part. The Avs have been very above board with cap and cap circumvention and not utilizing options like that when they don't need to. And I've really respected them for that. And so what I'm about to say, I still believe in that from the front office. But to your point, the timing of the year and with where we're at, there's the Emily Kaplan report. What's given me some optimism is after the Kaplan report, Bednar has still provided the most recent update being it's the most progress Gabe has made in this whole process, which is good. That's what we should be hearing. I won't get carried away with what that means. But to your point, it's still kind of a tricky point. We are past the halfway in the year for them to be juggling what a return to play in regular season would look like. And for the money perspective, there's a lot of reasons why it would make sense to hold off until playoffs. As we inch closer and closer to that room, it starts to make a lot more sense. I'm also very favorable of just erring on the side of caution.
And I think, we go back to last summer when it was it's a matter of when, not if conversation. I think that was assuming that things continued to progress and they were able to get, hit all these checkpoints. And I think they maybe just missed a couple of those, and that's all right. As you and I discussed last week, this is a process. It's something that no one has done before. We see that Lonzo Ball is having success, so that should be what continues to give the Avs optimism. But there's still there's still a long way to go, and I think bringing him back in the playoffs when you've got some more roster flexibility and you can get him in for a game in the first round, see how he holds up, bring him back for the second game, and if it starts to bother him or you feel like you want to, manage the workload a little bit, well, you've built your roster to the point where you feel a little bit more comfortable in that, or comfortable with that. You haven't overextended yourself on the cap. You can hopefully build a little bit of that depth up, and let him work into it a little bit there. in limited minutes, things like that, the way you'd use a fourth liner, and see how it goes and then reassess in the summer. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. There could be all kinds of stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't know. But this is just based on what I do know and kind of what I think.
I feel similarly.
Love it. Let's get out of here for tonight. Friday, tomorrow, we'll be back at it with another I almost said off court. That's Liv and BK. Another off ice episode tomorrow afternoon. We'll round out the week, talk a little bit about this game, preview Winnipeg. We'll be talking PWHL coming to Denver as well. A lot of fun stuff planned for tomorrow and beyond. She's Meghan Angley. I'm Jesse Montano. Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. Avs take this one 6-1 over the Minnesota Wild in Minnesota. Day off tomorrow for the Avs, then back at it against the Winnipeg Jets, tops in the Central Division. Another team the Avs will be looking to hunt down in the standings. Thanks so much, everybody. We will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.